Hello everyone, welcome back to Witchinary. If you have yet to subscribe to this channel, please do so. Today I wanted to bring to you part 2 of my Simon Says Stamp June 2018 Fly Me Away kit, and I'm going to start this off with card number 8. For this card, I really wanted to use that really big bouquet stamp that came in the kit, and I knew it wasn't going to fit in my mini Misti, so I ended up trimming a good portion of it. And to be fair, if it wouldn't have worked out for me, I think I would have just quit card making. I would have cried a lot and then begged my boyfriend to buy me a new one because I was not going to live without this. But anyway, it worked out and it stamped beautifully. I'm using some intense black Hero Arts ink, and then I'm going to fuzzy cut this image all around. I did not color this image because I really loved the way that the black and white looked against the watercolor. I liked how graphic and detailed the stamp set was against the soft edges of this beautiful watercolor panel that I had used previously for my second card with the beautiful sunset. Anyway, I'm going to take some Scotch foam tape to raise this panel up. And after I do, I am going to cut off any of the excess from the bottom of the card. I just wanted to give this card some dimension, and I have to admit this has to be my favorite card because it definitely had some elements of hard and soft to it, and it's just a really nice, well-rounded card. Once I'm done doing that, I just go back to make sure that all of my edges are nice and raised and won't fold in the mail. This leaf was giving me anxiety, so I had to make sure that it had a good panel and some good support on the back. Once I'm done doing that, I go back into my stamp set and I realize that I want to use the word beautiful for the greeting for this, and I just so happen to have a scrap piece of ultra matte black cardstock lying around, and I decide that it's perfect to heat emboss the sentiment beautiful. I'm going to use some Paper Source white embossing powder for this because I wanted to match the paper that's white, and I just felt like the black and white would tie this card in beautifully together. Once I'm done doing that, I'm just going to flick off all the excess and I'm going to heat emboss this. Then I'm going to trim off any bit that was just too much because I don't want the beautiful to be the entirety of the card. I just kind of want it to be there and give some sort of contrast to the softness of the paper and the graphicness of the flowers. I'm going to finish this off by stamping "You Are" at the top and then bringing some more foam tape to raise up the beautiful panel, so that way I still am playing around with dimension, and although this card is simple, it doesn't, actually mess up too much of the aesthetic. After I'm done there, I'm just going to bring out my ebony Nuvo Drops, and with that, I am going to just add some Nuvo Drops all around the bouquet. I kind of wanted to give it just a little bit of interest around, like if there was something glowing about the cards, but if glow was, black and white. For my next card, I wanted to do something with that beautiful gold cardstock that came in the kit, and I ended up using the embossing folder, but long and behold, I didn't really like it. And I know that sounds really bad, but it just the embellish or the finish on it just wasn't my favorite. I don't know, it wasn't very modern for me, so I didn't really want to use it. So I ended up trimming little bits of that gold paper. I also went back and I took some of this flower pattern paper because it matched perfectly with the cornstalk cardstock. So I wanted to do a very simple card that tied in the cornstalk along with the floral paper, and I think that I did that very well. I took another piece of ultra matte black cardstock from Paper Presentation, and I decided to again use the sentiment of "You Are Beautiful," and this time I also wanted to add kind to this to the sentiment for this card, and I used Ranger Gold Embossing powder because I wanted to, one, make the gold pop on this paper, which you know that I absolutely love to do, and two, because I knew I wanted to use little strips of the gold cardstock. I thought it would tie everything together really, really nicely. I go ahead and use my tape runner on the back of this and just distribute the tape adhesive liberally, and then after that's adhered, I wanted to, of course, have some dimension to my card, even if it was going to be simple, so I used some foam squares this time, and it's the same brand as the circles. I just could not find the circles on my desk at the time, and I'm going to adhere this down to my card. And at first I thought I wanted the gold strips to be like above and below the sentiment, giving like a nice new age little bracket, but then I hated the way that looked, so I went back and I kind of tucked the gold cardstock behind the black cardstock, just to give it a little bit of like a nice background without actually having to use excess cardstock. And just like that, I'm almost done with this card. I decided to come back out and use some of my clear Nuvo Drops with this because I wanted to give like a little bit of dimension to this card. You know that I can't really do simple too well, so with that I actually finished off my card. For my next card, I had been eyeballing this paper for a while and I wasn't sure if I was going to use it with gray or if I wanted to use the peacock blue. I also wanted to use some washi tape for this card, and as you guys can see, I'm a washi tape fiend. I love washi tape, particularly Halloween themed washi tape. I don't know why, I'm crazy. I was looking for some green, like sparkly embossing powder, not powder, but washi tape, some green sparkly washi tape, and I could not find it. So I decided that I want to use the purple washi tape once I decide that I'm going to use the peacock cardstock versus the smoke cardstock. So I trimmed this down so it fits my A2 size card, and once I see that it's a nice amount, I then start playing around with where my card actually starts and finishes, so that way I don't go overboard with the tape. I'm going to then place my washi tape right onto my card after making sure that the top is nice and straight, or at least as straight as I can make it, and I'm just going to adhere that down onto the card itself. And then of course I'm just going to trim off the excess as straight as I can. And then these scissors were giving me some trouble and it was kind of a nightmare. And then I realized I didn't like actually take this on straight, so it was a little bit of playing around. Eventually I decided that I didn't want that really thin piece of washi tape, so I went back in with a separate sheet of with a separate cut of different scissors that were sharper, and I made a second row of washi tape. Now, I do believe that you can use any kind of washi tape for this. This is just another way that you can get more uses out of your washi tape. You can make a nice border. I just had this one in my stash and I really wanted to use it, so that's what I went for. After that, I then raise up my flower panel with some tape, with some foam squares, and then I of course take my matte black paper, and I decide to heat emboss "You Are My Treasure," the sentiment onto this nice piece of ultra black cardstock. I go ahead and I use my Paper Source white heat embossing powder for this because I wanted to bring in the element of the white on the background, and then I go ahead and I raise that up with some more foam squares. I take out my oyster gray Nuvo Drops and just add a couple of drops here and there, trying to be careful to not, you know, drip off any excess, but I do, and then I go ahead and I fix it with like a combination of my nail and just the tip of a pencil. But I just go ahead and put that everywhere, and just like that, I'm done with my 7th card. For my final card, I had been eyeballing this beautiful hot air balloon paper forever, and I really wanted to do something with it, so I decided that I am going to trim all of these beautiful hot air balloons. And please forgive me with the sirens in the background. I live in New York City in a really populated area, and there was always sirens happening over here. But anyway, I didn't really like the paper that the hot air balloons were on, and I really wanted to use this beautiful watercolor paper for something. So I decide that I am going to adhere these beautiful hot air balloons against this washed out watercolor paper, and it was literally everything. So I go ahead and of course distribute my tape burner liberally, and then I adhere this down to my smoke panel. I decide to raise this up with some foam squares, and then just bring it up to the corner. And I'm just going to do the same. I had to make sure that the hot air balloons that were cornered had their corners, and then the two that were just free floating, I just played around with and tape those down with my tape runner, so that way I played with dimension a little bit. And of course, I had this piece of ultra matte black cardstock lying around, so I wanted to use it in the sentiment for this. And for this particular sentiment, I wanted to use the love and hug sentiment for this card. So I go ahead and I heat emboss that. And once I shake off all of the excess embossing powder and heat emboss it, I just go ahead and trim it and adhere that onto my card. And just like that, we are finished. Actually, I lied, we're not finished. I needed to bring out a couple of Nuvo Drops, and I decided that I wanted to bring out my oyster gray once more because of the hot air balloons. And I just, of course, did a couple of nice little embellishments, and just like that, we are done. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you back in my channel. Take care.